addition to what we're doing here. Well, our first hero is a person I've known for 15 years, an incredible person who's worked with students. He's been a trustee here at Munson Township for 15 years. She has done an incredible amount of different things, including working as I said, at Munson Township Park and Rain Garden. He's one of the people instrumental in helping get the Scenic River Preserve going. And I thought, since one of the people who was part owner of that Scenic River Preserve was Fred Klocka. Fred Klocka and his family worked to provide that area instead of turning it into the Scenic River Preserve. So I'd like to introduce to you Fred Klocka, who's going to introduce Irene. Okay? Thank you, Fred Klocka.
Thank you, Dave. It's certainly a privilege just to be here together and all, and bring back many memories, so many friends, so many different connections that I've made with people here, and connections that go way back to the Scenic River Preserve, the property that I grew up on. What I'd like to do is, as I introduce Irene McMullen, is to go back on memories of the way that I've walked those hills, the trails there, and how those have led up, the impact that the property and the trails have had on my life as I walk the Scenic River Trail and interact with people. It's truly been a blessing to me, and I'm so thankful for Protect Geauga Parks and for the trustees and others who bought the property from my relatives when my grandmother died, that they had a vision too of those hills being preserved and a trail where we can continue to walk and have wonderful memories. When it comes to Irene McMullen, there are connections that our paths have crossed, our trails have crossed from time to time. It reminds me of a song that was sung many years ago. Many here might remember that. Roy Rogers and Dale Evans sang that about their happy trails at the end of every program that they did. Happy trails to you until we come and meet again. Happy trails to you, keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. That song represents a happier time, a simpler time. When trails cross, it's more than coincidence. That's what I believe anyway. And that's part of the fabric of our lives. Relationships that are built together when our lives intersect. And it's a wonderful place to be able to intersect at that property that I grew up on with a trail there that Irene had a big part in providing. It's amazing when I think of times when my family and her family have intersected. One of those times goes back quite a few years ago. My mother used to teach Vacation Bible School at a community church there at Fowler's Mills. And one of my mother's students was very gracious during that week of summer there. And my mother gave that student a Bible. And that student was Irene McMullen's child. And our paths crossed back then. It's amazing the way that things happen in life. Our happy trails crossed back then. 7 years ago, our happy trails crossed once again. The property that I grew up on, that my grandmother had already been purchased then by the trustees, given because they wanted the land to go on and be preserved. And it's wonderful the way that worked out. 7 years ago, Irene McMullen was running to be a trustee, and she knocked on our doors. And so she introduced herself and everything, and we welcomed her in. And we talked for about an hour, and we just sat in our back room, and we overlooked the property and the pond, and had dreams and all kinds of things about that. And Irene mentioned of things at that point. on Vacation Bible School and the connection that we had, and dreams for the property, and a trail that was going to be installed, upgraded there with work that had been done by an Eagle Scout even. So it was wonderful just to talk and to have a connection and to build a relationship, that our lives were really touched by Irene and her love that she showed and the interest for preserving that property in the county. We talked many times of dreams about the property. We felt so blessed with the relationship. It was not long after that that trail went into being dedicated, a trail that Irene really worked on and others. And I was amazed because Irene was there. We got to intersect again and talk. And so was a McDonald fella by the name of Pete, who walked that trail when it was the dedication for it. And that was something, because Pete and Nate's father and mother were my friends, and we'd hunted that property together and walked it back in the 60s and so, and it was just a wonderful time of connection once again. It's something how much that property means to me and the people that I've met along that property. It's incredible. It would be just a few years later with that property going on that I would walk it every other day, and I ended up having a lump of cancer in my neck. And one of the things that I would do is just talk with people on the trail every other day as I would walk. And those people became my friends, and they even said things like, "Oh, can we pray for you? Can we help you?" And even, some of them even brought cookies to us, my wife and I, after surgery, and helped pray for me and helped get me through. And I think, what a blessing, what a testimony. That was something that really helped me. And that's all because of a vision that people have, preserving the property, of making it a caring place, and making it a place where we can intersect, where we can love one another, we can take time to grow with each other. I think that was so impressive. And just a year ago, Irene introduced me, and one of the things that touched me is she still had that Bible that my mother had given to her child. And I think, wow, it's something, the way that things happen, more than coincidence, wonderful things that are such a blessing to me and mean so much to me. You, as many friends you're here and new friends, I encourage you to take time to walk that trail or any trail, and when you do, to stop and to take time to listen to people, to make friends with them, to see what's going on, and then come closer and closer together all the time. That it's more than coincidence. More than coincidence, I believe. That it's a wonderful plan of someone bigger than me and you. And so I'm thankful for that. Even for dogs, and the special dogs, Ziggy, that I meet, that's my buddy there on the trail. I looked out this morning and there was a family with dogs, and I think, how blessed. Geauga Parks, Munson trustees, the property that I grew up on, because a vision is much more than a piece of property, but a place of dreams, a place of community, a place of friendships, a place where we can connect. And so, what an opportunity. Take time to build friendships. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you till we meet again. Today it's my honor and my privilege to introduce a friend that we've met on that happy trail, a friend, a hero of conservation, Irene McMullins. Let's welcome her.
Thank you so much, Fred, for those kind afternoon, and thank you so much to Protect Geauga Parks for this lovely program and for the important work you continue to do to preserve and protect our natural resources. My interest in environmental work came when our family moved to Geauga County from Cleveland more than 3 decades ago. We had a small stream on our property, a tributary of the Chagrin River. Besides providing an endless opportunity for our children to hone their rock skipping skills, the outdoor classroom, as our children called it, hosted neighborhood friends for explorations regularly. First, informally, we had small groups of individuals working on small environmentally related projects, such as teaching classrooms of school children about native Ohio brook trout, and building osprey nesting platforms in our barn. These projects and many others grew larger, and the number of students I was mentoring also grew. Some of the projects I worked on involved legislation, and I thank my son Clay, who's here today, and his friends for lobbying the Ohio legislature to designate the spotted salamander as Ohio's state amphibian. This designation persuaded schools to adopt curriculum to help students understand the significance of vernal pools to our communities. I have been fortunate to have the pleasure of working with a number of very dedicated students who put in countless hours of work to preserve habitat in the county and beyond. We were even able to raise money and provide expertise for programs in Peru and Afghanistan. My work as a board member of the Chagrin River Watershed Partners, a consortium of government officials in the Chagrin watershed and beyond, affords me the opportunity to work on large-scale restoration projects throughout the region. I'm grateful for all the state and regional support of these projects. None of this work could have been done without the partnership of community members. One project provides an example. A water runoff problem at Munson Township Park provided the perfect circumstance for installation of a rain garden. The Munson Elementary School art teacher had students create stepping stones for the garden, and a grant funded the project. My role is often writing the paperwork, as I did for this project, a task I enjoy and requires little actual gardening skill. Master gardeners, one of whom is here today, then helped the students plant the garden. It turned into a multi-generational community project, which also served as a demonstration project to help homeowners create their own rain gardens. Recently, a Girl Scout has agreed to renew the garden and make it even better than when it was originally conceived. It is this continuum of coalitions of volunteers who step up to fulfill needs of maintenance and enhancement of public lands, which makes Geauga such a hospitable place to live. All of you here have most likely been a part of groups who have enhanced public lands. No project is a success without the support of local leaders and volunteers at all levels. I urge all of you to continue your work, as will I, for our own well-being and benefit, and for the legacy it will leave for generations to come. Thank you again for this honor.
Wow, what an impressive person. How about another hand? You can't just stand there. The next person is just as equally impressive. His name is Steve Madewell. Steve, you might know Steve as a musician, but long before that, he was a park director at the Geauga Park District in 1987. I'm sure he's got some good stories to tell you about that in the early days. He was with the Park District only for a short time, for 18 months or so. Then he moved on to Lake Metro Parks, and then to Toledo Metro Parks. And what he did there was pretty incredible too. I'm not going to spoil that story for him. He'll tell you about it. But the guy who's going to introduce him is also a pretty incredible guy. His name is Harvey Webster. And I'm going to have Harvey Webster come up and tell you a little bit about him, okay? All right, Harvey.
be here. I've known about this group for most of its 10-year history, and I commend you for the extraordinary work that you're doing to protect and preserve and conserve the best of Geauga County. And I see lots of heroes out here in the audience. I'm impressed that you reached out to me. I'm an outlander. I don't reside in Geauga County. I live up there in Lake County, so it's a pleasure. I didn't know if I could get through the force field at the border. I had to show some credentials, but anyway, very honored to be here and very honored to be able to introduce a dear friend. You know, this concept of having heroes of conservation, and particularly the tribute that was done to the Colliker family and my former colleague at the museum, Jim Bissell, and the legacy of conservation there, it rings so true because, you know, you think about lots of big names, but you think about the collective actions of so many people that come together and have a transformative effect on our relationship with the special places that we hold dear and that we ultimately steward. Steve Madewell is an amazing force of nature. And not only is he a hero of conservation in Geauga County, he's just flat out a hero of conservation. Here's a guy who has spent his entire professional career in park districts in the state of Ohio, starting out down in Dayton, then coming here first as deputy director, and then with the death of Don Meyer, becoming the executive director of Geauga Parks, and in his short tenure here had a transformative effect. Things, major advances at the Walter Best Preserve, the Don Meyer Center was opened up, these crown jewels. And one of the things that Steve established early on is that ability to take a park district and have it recognize the resources it had to kind of think outside its traditional norms to be able to leverage its strengths and be able to do that much more. Conservation, environmental education, and the like, including recreation. He has articulated, I believe, to this group the intrinsic value of protected open spaces. I mean, they're irreplaceable, they are invaluable. So he had this great gig here in Geauga County, but he left. He left to go north to Lake County. Now, I presumed that it was because there was better steelhead fishing in the Chagrin River and the Grand River in Lake County. But he assures me that they actually offered him an awful lot more money. And he had a young family, and so those were things that were very important. In a long career, a couple decades, both as deputy director and executive director of Lake Metro Parks, had really a transformative impact upon that park. And think about the advances like the Environmental Education Center, a huge commitment to create a campus where environmental education can take place, above and beyond traditional nature centers. Look at the additions that occurred to the Lake County Park system while he was deputy director and executive director, greatly expanding its ranks and recognizing the value of both the Chagrin River and especially the Grand River corridors and the commitment that Lake Metro Parks had to be able to protect that, as well as the commitment to stewarding the natural resources that were there. The thing about Steve is that, you know, he was an incredible fisherman and has fish stories, I'm sure, up the wazoo. And, you know, I think of an Evan Morse statement a long time ago that he said, you know, all fishermen are born honest, but then they grow out of it. Anyway, a gifted fisherman and has written songs, a gifted storyteller, a gifted songwriter, a gifted musician, taking stories of his experiences, particularly stories that involve the natural world, and bringing them to light in song. And so if you're at a winery sometime, you might have heard all about the Grand River from Steve Madewell, but he's doing it in the form of a song. But he was as comfortable in the State House as he was in a trout stream. He was an amazing gift for convening people from all different backgrounds, bureaucrats, politicians, natural resource stewards, firebrand environmentalists and bring them all to a place where they could actually come together and come to some consensus and work for conservation. That is an unbelievable skill. Not many people have it. Steve has got it. So he had a long and distinguished career in transforming Lake Metro Parks, but then he heard the clarion call that before he hung up his park management hat, it was time to go run another system. And so he was hired to be the executive director of the Toledo Metro Parks. Now, Toledo Metro Parks, beloved, but they have not really added for decades any new property. At a time of rampant development, you know, the entire northwestern Ohio was getting built up. It seemed like Toledo Metro Parks just wasn't a participant in trying to secure open space and protect it in perpetuity. Steve rose to the occasion. He said, you know, you guys have so much equity. People love you. Do you know you could put on a levy and that you could greatly expand the properties? There's no time like the present to acquire more property. And one of his last projects that he set the groundwork for, I believe he retired before it opened, is someplace we call Howard Marsh. All of you birders out there, this has become one of the most beloved places to bird in the state of Ohio. It was a build it and they will come. This expansive Howard farm was acquired by the park district and then was reclaimed. It was turned back into wetlands that are closely associated with Lake Erie's levels. It's right next to Metzger Marsh. And it seemed like overnight there are blackneck stilts nesting there. There are king rails all over the place. There's all of these birds which are unheard of in the state of Ohio, or critically endangered species in the state of Ohio, and there they are. And the neat thing about it is when they finally opened it to the public, there's a great boardwalk that goes through it. And this boardwalk has this wonderful trailhead with this neat wrought iron thing arched over it. And it says it's the Madewell Trail in honor of Steve. Coolest last name ever. You got it.